Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this postmortem of my Blitz game number 676. I had the white pieces and started off with knight f3, the Reti opening. My opponent goes d6. You can see that's not the most common response. I think knight f6 is what I play against the Reti. It's just kind of a flexible waiting move. d5 goes into the main line ready. You know, white is prepared to answer d5 with c4. A temporary pawn sack, although white usually gets the pawn back. And the idea is to fianchetto the bishop and get some good light square control. So d6 is an interesting move. It doesn't stake any big claim to the center. And from a technical point of view, probably the best move for white is to really just go ahead and put a pawn in the center. If you look at the chess engine, it'll tell you that's the best move here. But I wanted to play the ready setup, so I'm going with this g3. He goes g6, go bishop g2, and he goes bishop g7. So it's pretty logical once we've decided we want to play this way. At any point in there, white could have probably gotten some bigger advantage out of the opening by playing a move like d4. And even here, d4 is recommended. But I'm going with this the ready idea, still playing for light squared control. And he goes knight c6 here, and at this point, we are out of the opening book, and it's a position that's about even, and especially after black plays e5. Up until this point, I could have played d4 and gotten some kind of opening edge. At least that's the evaluation of the chess engine. After e5, though, black has stopped me from playing d4. And we've got kind of a reverse Sicilian. I've got somewhat like a dragon setup, and black has a closed Sicilian setup with the fianchettoed bishop, pawn on e5. And the chess engine rates this as about even. But this is the kind of position I was going for with the Reti, so I'm not unhappy with this result. And we get some normal play for the next few moves. I just need to open up a line for my bishop, so I had to move the d-pawn forward, and I still want to keep this diagonal open for this bishop. I'll be repositioning this knight at some point. He castles. I go a3. That's another idea, is you can actually continue building up like this and just take even more control over that diagonal. It's a way to play. He goes d5 here. So the engine rates this as a slight mistake. I didn't call it a blunder. It's just a kind of a different way to play. Gives the opening advantage back to white in some way. The engine wants to just kind of sit on this position and play a move like rook to b8, getting that rook off the diagonal, preparing to move the knight, and having this defended in advance, so that the knight and the bishop are both free to move, and the rook will be defending this pawn, and it's out of the glare of the bishop. So a good preparatory move. Anyway, he went d5. And I took the pawn. He took back. And queen to c2. I wasn't quite sure here. Actually, the chess engine wanted me to just keep taking, but I didn't see any great, and there's no huge advantage. It's just a slight edge. I didn't see any big reason to take. It does set the queen up for some kind of discovered attack, but it appears that there's no big material edge that can be gained from all those possible knight moves I might play. I can't take the pawn because the queen can just take the knight, so that wouldn't work out. Okay, so he decided to take, and this probably helps me a little bit. It brings out my b-pawn to the c file, allows me to push it forward again and get more control over this diagonal that I'm going for. With bishop f5, that was a good move, I thought. Pins this pawn and maybe introduces the idea of pushing the e-pawn forward and trying to disrupt my setup a little bit. I went rook b1. I'm getting my rook off of this diagonal. He's got this nice diagonal for his bishop. I have to keep that in mind. And I wanted to push the c-pawn forward, and at any point he can push his e-pawn forward, and if my rook is still sitting in the corner, there's this double attack on my knight and my rook caused by those two pawn pushes. So that's another preparatory move. He goes rook b8 at this point. I go knight d2, opening up this diagonal for my bishop. Also maybe preparing to reposition the knight to some good squares. It could go to either c4 or e4. And now I played queen d6. So queen d6 is another kind of slight misstep. It's not a not a blunder, but it helps me a little bit. when he goes to queen d6, I get a tempo move with my knight. The knight hits the queen, and the queen has to move again. So it gives me a free move, basically. He could take the knight, but he probably doesn't want to give up the bishop pair. The engine doesn't think that's particularly a good trade for black either. Let's see if we back up. Instead of going to d6, probably going to d7 makes the most sense. He can set up this battery and prepare to trade off my bishop at some point. So that's the most natural way to play, and probably the best move there. Okay, so he went queen d6. I took advantage of that, and I kicked his queen around a little bit. His queen went back to e7. And now I went a4. I had this kind of long-winded plan to protect this square and put a bishop there, because I saw he had lined up his queen and his rook. And so it's a slow plan, and it's easy for black to defeat. But of course, if you're black, you have to notice these things. So I got lucky here. He didn't notice it. Let's see. He played bishop e6. I went rook e1, and he went f5. So he was just focusing on his own plans here. And there's nothing wrong with that f5 move in general, but in this particular case, he needs to do something about the tactic that I've set up. And the best move here is just to move the rook out of the way of the skewer, also putting the rook on an open file. I mean, this is a very logical developing move, and that would be fine for black. Instead, he played f5, and at this point, I am winning. And actually, I keep the winning edge through the game, though it gets a little bit complicated. Let's see. So after f5, I play my tactic. He moves the queen out of the way, and I take. And he keeps taking. Oh, he keeps allowing me to trade pieces. He might have tried to take with the queen to avoid this trade. But when I'm up in material, I want to simplify the position, get into a winning in-game or late middle game. So the more pieces I can take off, the better. Oh, let's see, he didn't go to e7. He went to d7. Oh, we went to f6, sorry. Okay, so I took off the bishop and then played my rook back to b1 because you know, I want to put the rook on an open file. It was just there to support that one tactic. Let's see, he went bishop to c5 here. And bishop to c5 is actually a blunder. So yeah, f5 was the first blunder in the game when he played here and ignored the threat on the queen. And after that, he's losing. This one, bishop c5, is another blunder, and he would lose more quickly, except I didn't spot it. I didn't figure out the problem here. So this is your tactics quiz for the video. What's the problem with this bishop to c5 move? Okay, I'm going to give the answer away now, so pause the video if you want some time to think about it. In this position, white has the move d4. And d4 is part of a tactic I call the double pawn push. You get the first push with tempo, and then the second push is the tactic. It hits it forks the the queen and the knight. And there's not much that can be done about it. Let's see, you could trade first, but I think the engine gives this line as the best possible outcome for for black. So he's just losing a piece there, and I'd be a whole rook up. Although he gets a pawn for it, so it's about a +4 advantage to white there. So that would be pretty clearly winning. Yeah, I missed this idea completely. I was focused. There are tactical ideas here. For example, I noticed the b pawn is pinned here. The rook is undefended, so this pawn is pinned. So this knight is only defended by the queen. So if I could chase the queen away, you know, I could pick up a loose piece there. Those are the tactical ideas I was thinking about, and I missed this classic double pawn push tactic. Okay. Let's see, so I went rook to b3, doubling on the b file. He dropped his bishop back, and now the tactic is gone. It was just there for that one moment. Okay, let's see, I bring my rook over here to double on the b file. He plays rook to f8, trying to get some activity on the king side, and I went c4. And I didn't realize this. I was just playing c4 with a focus on chasing the bishop away and picking up the pawn there. and he didn't react in the way I expected here. But c4 comes with a threat. So what threat is white making here that that black really needs to respond to? Okay, well, pause the video once again if you don't see it. I missed this threat during the game. I totally was oblivious that I had this threat. But I was worried. What if he plays knight d4? I said, oh, after I moved this pawn to c4, I said, oh, I gave up this d4 square, and now he's forking my queen and my queen and my rook. And I thought, oh, this is awful. But well, I have a threat here. Let's see. I guess in this case I need to move the queen out of the way, and now he needs to do something about the threat, which is if he takes, for example, that's the threat. The threat is the bishop skewering the queen and the king. So so when I played c4 here, I thought he had just missed this tactic, but in fact he had seen the tactic that I had missed, and he played king h8. So he fixed the problem with that skewer. And now by this time I had noticed the problem with this square, and I played e3. So kind of a lucky sequence for me. I didn't realize I'd let myself open to a tactic, but I actually had a bigger threat myself. So I would have survived that okay in any case. Well, assuming that I'd noticed that bishop d5 move. Anyway, so he pushes on, and with f4, I remain a exchange up. Let's see, I go with c5. I'm just trying to pick up another pawn here on the queen side and also destabilize the knight. So he had unpinned the b pawn by moving his rook away, but now I've removed the support of the pawn for the knight, and so once again the knight is only defended by the queen. Let's see, he went ahead and played f takes e3, and I took back. I didn't see him breaking through immediately, although he has some ideas here. Let's see, he went queen to e7. Yeah, his idea is to get onto the dark squares here and maybe pick up this loose pawn on e3 with check. That would be a way for him to get some activity. But he's given up the knight, so he lost a little bit of focus there at this point in the game. It was a tough position, but he didn't really need to give up the knight. But he was losing all along. Anyway, he goes queen g5, trying to get this counterplay going. I just come over here with queen e2 to defend. He goes bishop to c3, locking. Not there. Where'd he go? He goes bishop to c3. Okay, I'm not sure what his plan is here with the bishop, but maybe trying to push this pawn forward and get the bishop back in the game. I guess that's it. Let's see, I played rook to b8 here. I just want to trade off the rooks and simplify things. He takes, I take with check, and he goes king g7. So I go queen f3 here, setting up a mate threat against the back rank. And I noticed, I did notice the tactic this time, and he didn't. So the final blunder here was e4, but he was already losing at this point. So he's down a rook. So it just ended the game more quickly, and a nice little finish. That a mating pattern is something everyone should know. Okay, I hope you guys liked this video. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you again soon.